A statement from Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, quote, "We have decided to bring our team home from Doha for consultations after the latest response from Hamas, which clearly shows a lack of desire to reach a ceasefire in Gaza. While the mediators have made a great effort, Hamas does not appear to be coordinated or acting in good faith. We will now consider alternative options to bring the hostages home and try to create a more stable environment for the people of Gaza. It is a shame that Hamas has acted in this selfish way. We are resolute in seeking an end to this conflict and a permanent peace in Gaza."
The Special Envoy's statement, does that suggest that the U.S. is pulling out of any sort of negotiating role in the Gaza ceasefire talks? What are these alternatives?
Well, look, ultimately the statement speaks for itself, but the question has never been our commitment to a ceasefire. The question has been Hamas's commitment to a ceasefire, and that has been made clear by the Special Envoy's statement. The fact that we have entered in good faith in trying to reach an end to this conflict. And as the Special Envoy said, we remain dedicated to trying to see an end to this conflict.
But will you work within the parties, Qatar, Egypt, for example, in the Doha format? Will you return to that, or are you pulling out entirely from this format?
Well, look, again, I refer you back to this statement. This is a very dynamic situation. And ultimately, again, to reinforce, the question here has never been our commitment to try to get a ceasefire. We've seen that engagement. The question here has always been Hamas's commitment to a ceasefire or willingness to get there.
And can you give us any examples of the alternative options that Witkoff references in his statement?
At this point, I have nothing to preview. Yes?
Thank you. Just following up on that, what about the response from Hamas specifically made the administration feel that they were not acting in good faith?
Well, look, these are sensitive diplomatic conversations. We'll see in the days ahead as we proceed here. Ultimately, the Special Envoy's statement speaks for itself, but I think the broader context here is also important. The fact that we have seen Hamas first break that ceasefire that existed on October 7th, then break another ceasefire, and then here, as the Special Envoy makes clear, not acting in a way in order to achieve a ceasefire again. So to reiterate, the question has never been our commitment to a ceasefire. It has been Hamas's. They have shown that again and again and again, and have just shown it once again.
And this decision comes as dozens of people have starved to death in Gaza in the last few weeks as a wave of hunger is being unplayed. The WHO said yesterday that 21 children under the age of 5 were among those who died of malnutrition so far this year, and more than 100 organizations have called for the lifting of all restrictions on the flow of aid and all land crossings to be opened and the restoration of a UN-led humanitarian response. Given this decision today, is the U.S. considering any other steps to increase the flow of aid to Gaza? Are you talking with Israel about them taking any other steps? How do you move forward on the aid?
Well, look, ultimately what we have seen us do is the delivery of close to 90 million meals into Gaza during a war zone. The ability to deliver that aid in a way where it is not being looted by Hamas. That is what we have seen. We are, of course, aware, and of course we want to see end the devastation that has taken place in Gaza. That's why we have seen this commitment to get aid to the people who need it in a way where it is not weaponized by Hamas. That commitment remains. It is a commitment from President Trump and Secretary Rubio. That is why we have supported the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. That is why we continue supporting the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. That is why we've seen those 90 million meals being distributed. And that commitment, again, to making sure that aid is reaching the people of Gaza that need it. And the first victims of Hamas being the people of Gaza, as is demonstrated once again here.
Is the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation a sufficient mechanism for delivering aid to Gaza? I mean, people are still starving to death. Is that enough in the U.S. opinion?
Well, as spokesperson Tammy Bruce has said from this podium before, it is never enough in a war zone. It is never enough. That is why we're committed to trying to get as much aid in as possible. That is why we worked for that ceasefire, because of what we are seeing. But aid needs to be delivered in a way where it is not being looted by Hamas. So of course, it is never enough in a war zone, but we're dedicated to getting as much aid into Gaza in a way where it reaches the people that need it as possible. And that's why we were working so hard for a ceasefire.